All right, so this week we're going to be taking a look at another rhythm lesson, and this one is so much fun to do because you don't need a jam track. You can just grab an acoustic guitar, electric guitar. You don't have to worry about effects or anything. You can do this with any guitar that you've got, and it sounds really good on its own. And I was going to create a jam track to go along with it. When I was writing it, I was thinking in the back of my head, I thought this would be great as like a little trio with the drum and bass. But the more I thought about it, I think it's just better instructionally for you to be able to do all of these things on your own. All of the rhythm. You don't have anything to fall back on, so you're having to fill all the space, including all the little bluesy fill licks that are thrown in there. And that's kind of a hard thing to do when you have to stop. You don't want the rhythm to stop too much because then it becomes obvious. So it's just figuring out how to do that. And so we're going to talk through that as we go through this. All of the lead licks that we're playing here are minor pentatonic scales, so there's nothing that's super out of the box in terms of scales or anything weird like that. So I've got the lesson split into two parts. In this video, we're going to go through the first half. If you'd like to learn the second half, as well as download the tablature and get access to the on-screen tab viewer, which you can slow down and you can loop and all of that, you can get those things by going to activemelody.com, go to the weekly lessons page, and do a search for EP410. Okay, so we have a minor key blues in A minor, and I'm in this position here. And by the way, let me just mention the effects. So people always ask about that. If you listen as the notes ring out, you'll hear a little bit of a shimmer. And so that's something that is built into the Kemper. There's a rotary speaker effect. And so that's what I'm using for that. So if you're interested in that sound, you'd have to find some kind of a rotary speaker type. They have pedals that do that. If you're interested, I think it sounds good in this kind of a rhythm thing. Especially when you hold a note and it starts to add a little bit of vibration into it. And obviously the longer you hold it, the more vibration it gives it, which is more of a natural feel. And you don't have to think about it. You don't have to like rock a pedal like a wah-wah pedal or anything. It's just doing it automatically. So that's really the only effect that's being used here. The rest of it's just an amp with a little bit of reverb. Okay, so we're A minor. And we're in this position where I'm thinking the E minor chord shape. This is kind of going back to the Cage thing, but if you think of E minor down in first position, you were to play your E minor up here, and then you're barring to capo where the nut was, you'd be barring on the 5th fret. So that's your A minor. And actually, if you take your pinky away, you have an A minor 7, which is a little classier sounding minor chord to me. It classes it up just a little bit to play a minor 7 versus just a straight up A minor. That seems almost too, I don't want to say generic, but it just seems so predictable. This has a different vibe. So that's what I'm playing, is an A minor 7. And I'm going to put up on the screen the tab for the strum pattern here. And so we're going to go through the first two measures. And actually, all of the strumming that happens really is covered in the first two measures. It's just a repeat throughout the rest of it. So it starts off with a little pickup. And so that's the open 6th string. Then we go to the 3rd fret, 4th fret, and then up to the 5th fret. And I use my index finger for those three, so that I can be in position to make this bar here. So once you get into position to bar there on the 5th fret, you put your ring finger down on the 7th fret, 5th string, and that's really all you have to worry about with the left hand. It's just that A minor 7 chord. The rest of the work now falls into your right hand and what you're doing with a strumming pattern. And I've said this many times, but when you're jamming or creating a groove, your right hand has to stay in motion the whole time, like this. It never stops. And it's really, it does stop when you do the little fill licks and things, but otherwise it's not. And that's what allows it to sound very rhythmic and percussive like that. So, once we come up to that A, we're going to do a downstroke, and then we're going to do a muted up and down. So we have, and then we're going to do an upstroke. And by the way, I'm hitting strings 3, 4, and 5. I'm trying to hit those three. And if you accidentally bump the other strings, that's fine, but I'm just trying to target those in my strums. So you have down, 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 muted up and down, up, another muted down, and then an up. So if we were to count that, we'd say 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and then you hang out on that and then that spills into the next measure. So it's 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and. Let me do that again. I'll do it slowly. This is the whole vibe. Once you get this, the whole thing starts to unravel a little bit. Okay? Now we're into the next measure, and then I went. So once we play that upstroke in the end of the first measure that we were just covering, it spills into the next measure. So that would be your 1 and 2. So you do an and 2, and you're strumming those. So you're doing an upstroke and a downstroke on the and 2. So 1 and 2, muted up, and then a downstroke on the 3. And that would be playing your D chord. So that's where I switch chords with my left hand. So the left hand is doing very minimal work here, as you can see. It was just holding down that A minor 7. Now we went to the D chord, and I'm using the A shape out of Caged. So we have down, down, muted up. And that, I know that's a lot, but that's really the whole thing. It's those first two measures. So let me back up now and play them. I'll put them together here. We're going to start, actually I'll skip the little pickup notes, and we'll start right here on the 1 with this A. So it's let's do it again. All right, so if you're able to do that, you're really able to play the rest of this. And I realize how hard that can be when you don't have a jam track to fall back on. And actually, I did that on purpose because it really highlights all the things that you're doing right and all the things that you're doing wrong. So it makes you a little more aware of what's going on. And you can hear it if you start to drop the timing, or you drop a beat, or you get confused as to an upstroke or downstroke. It's very obvious. But once you get it going, it's just like riding a bicycle or anything that you're comfortable doing. You can just do it without thinking about it. To me, this is something I could do. I could talk over it. I'm not even putting any thought into what's going on with my right hand. It's just kind of doing its own thing. Because I'm just kind of going like this. I'm just, tapping on the guitar. It's what it feels like in my head. And you'll get there too. Okay, so that repeats twice. So we have, there's the first one, here's the second one. And then watch this. Now we start a little lead lick. So right at the end of that, I slid into this 7th fret 4th string, and then 5th fret 3rd string, and that's the 1 of the next measure right there. So that's the 5th fret 3rd string, and then we come down to the 7th fret 4th string again. And these two notes are minor pentatonic scale, pattern 1. That's where they're at for A minor pentatonic scale. And after that, mute it up and down, and you get right back into the groove. So you're going to have to stop, play your little lead part there, just a few notes, and then you got to get right back into the groove. That's the hardest part. You're stepping off the train for a minute, doing something, and then you're jumping back on the train. So you have, okay, and then after that, I threw in another lick that goes, kind of an Albert King sounding thing. So I'm coming up here to the 8th fret 3rd string, sliding down to the 7th fret, and then going down to the 5th fret. Back to the 7th fret 3rd string. All of that's done on the 3rd string. And then there's your Albert King thing. 5th fret 3rd string, 7th fret 4th string. So now some of you are asking what this note is, because the one I started with there, it's not in the minor pentatonic scale, but it is in the blues scale. So that's that blue note. There's your minor pentatonic scale. Well, you can add this note to your minor pentatonic scale to convert it into the blues scale. So that's why they call that the blue note. Now after that, I come back down here and I hit the 5th fret 6th string with my index finger, which, look at that, my finger just naturally goes into place to lay across as a bar there. and then I can get back into the groove. So right back into that A minor groove. All right, so let me back it up slowly from the beginning and play up to that point. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so after this, we're back into the groove. We play the D chord, and then watch this. So another little fill lick, and I really broke out of the rhythm altogether, but I tried to keep the timing going. This all happens subconsciously. I'm not sitting down writing out, you know, what the notes are, what the beats are in the measure, and trying to fit, you know, notes that match that or anything like that. It's just sort of a feel thing. And so you could stop as long as you're keeping, like, tapping your foot to keep the rhythm going. You can do whatever little lead thing that you want to throw in there. Right? That kind of thing. Okay, so I went. This comes up into pattern 2 of the minor pentatonic scale for A minor. We're coming up to the 9th fret 3rd string, 8th fret 2nd string, 10th fret 2nd string. And you can see this is the bottom part of that little shape there in the pattern 2 minor pentatonic. That's what that looks like. So we're coming into this. Now I could have done a full bend here, and I thought about doing that, but I ended up just sliding. So I think that makes it easier. Those of you that are on acoustic guitars, you could play this as well. You don't have to worry about trying to do a full bend. However you want to do it, but I'm just trying to hit this note. That's how I did it. And all of that was done on the 2nd string. Well, except for this first note, which is on the 3rd string. And then back to the 8th fret 2nd string, and then watch this. That's all done with the index finger. Let me show you how to play it first, and then we'll talk it through. So it's strings 1 and 2 on the 8th fret. We slide up to the 10th fret, and then back to the 8th fret. And then watch this. Using that same finger, I slid down to the 7th fret, strings 2 and 3. 5th fret, strings 2 and 3. 7th fret, 4th string. And then the last thing I think I played was strings 2 and 3 on the 5th fret again. So that's what that lick sounds like. Now, this will be a good takeaway for you in terms of ideas for like a little fill lick, or even when you're playing lead. If you think about pattern 2 of that minor pentatonic scale, and look at the notes here, you've got 10th fret, 8th fret on the 1st string, 10th fret, 8th fret on the 2nd string. So when I went like this, I was playing both of those strings, strings 1 and 2 on the 10th fret, and down to the 8th fret. But you can see why they work. They're in that minor pentatonic scale. And so the takeaway then is, if you're ever just looking for an idea, a little creative idea, that's a fun, especially when you're doing something rhythmic, funky, you can work that in to your playing. And then if you want, you can come down down to the 5th fret. So this would be sliding between the 5th fret and the 3rd fret. So you have a position here, and then you have a position here. And all of that's done on strings 1 and 2. Now I realize I did not come down to this when I was playing that. I just wanted to show you that. But these are little rhythm fills that I hear rhythm guitar players playing all the time, especially in a minor key. That kind of thing, you know. I know that sounds familiar. Kind of got a Steely Dan vibe, you know. I think of maybe Larry Carlton or whoever's, you know, played with them would be using those kinds of. Anyway, at least you can see where they're coming from. And when I came down here, by the way, that's pattern 5 of the minor pentatonic. Right? Okay, so let's back it up from. After that, we came down into minor pentatonic scale pattern 1. That's what these two notes are. Right? But that slide in gives it that extra little bluesy vibe. So once we come down to that, we got to get back into the groove. And then I stopped it and went. And that's similar to what we did for the 1 chord when we started the song, right? I thought, well, we're going to the 4 chord now, which is going to be our D chord. Even though we're playing over, the 1 chord is a minor chord, it'd be like a 1 minor. Now we're playing a 4 major, so we're playing that D chord. And I'm walking up the same way, using the same strings, 3, 4, and 5th fret. But this time we're doing it on the 5th string. And I did 2 of them. Open 5th, 3rd, 4th, and then we come up to the D chord. Same groove as before. I'm not going to count it out this time because it's exactly the same. If you've got it over the A minor, you've got it here over the D. So it's... And then watch this. So we go back, I jump back to the A minor 7 for 2, and then back to the D. I just thought that sounded cool. I don't really know why. I didn't really get into the theory of why the A minor worked as another chord to bounce off of this. You can sort of bounce back and forth between 2 chords, that D major and the A minor 7, but it was just a chord that I'd already played. So that's another little thing that I've noticed is if you're trying to write something and trying to figure out what chord next, go back to chords you've already used. 9 times out of 10, one of them will work in what you're trying to do. So that's what's going on there. So cool. Okay, so then we go back to the D, and then a little fill there. And this is just, well, let me show you how to play it first. So we're going to bar the first 2 strings here on the 5th fret, and we do a hammer onto the 7th fret, 2nd string. This is kind of a country lick. This is one I use a lot. But I want you to pay attention to these notes that we're going to be learning here and how they relate to your D chord using the A shape. You can see when I'm playing that, I've got 1 finger on the 7th fret, 1 on the 5th fret. When I'm doing this, 5th fret, 7th fret, I'm in the same little area here. So we go hammer onto the 7th fret, back to the 5th fret, and then 7th fret, 3rd string, 5th fret, 3rd string. So that's the fill lick. And you can see why that works, because it's the same frets that we're using here when we're playing the D chord using the A shape. So you have this little box then where you're playing off of this A shape where you can play the 4th string, 3rd string, 2nd string, and 1st string. And any of those notes work, even chromatically, even the notes in between. So you can get a lot of mileage out of just that one little piece of information. So that's what I play there. And then back to the, this would be the turnaround. And I say back to it, we haven't been to it yet, but this would be the 5 chord. And it's a major chord. And it's got that kind of a weird vibe. So it's an E7 chord. But you add your pinky up here to the 8th fret 2nd string. And that's a sharp 9. So the technical term is the E7 sharp 9 chord. Some people call that the Hendrix chord, because he used that in Foxy Lady. I think it's in Foxy Lady. I know it's in Purple Haze. Anyway, quite a few songs that Hendrix played, he would use this chord. But anyway, that's an E7 sharp 9. Let me back up and play from the beginning up to that point. 1, 2, 3. All right, so I'm going to wrap up this part 1 video right there. I think that's a good stopping point. And then I'll hope to see you in part 2, where we'll go over the rest of this. And obviously you would have access to that and the tablature, the on-screen tab viewer if you're a premium member. If you haven't joined me yet for premium membership, join the Active Melody family. You should look into it because it's all a bunch of people just like you that are trying to learn how to improvise, myself included, by the way. I'm still trying to learn it too. So we're all learning it together. We have a very active forum, and it's a great place to learn. If you haven't checked it out, I would encourage you to take a look. And also, if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, hit the subscribe button and then click that alert bell so you can be notified. And then I'll see you in part 2.